Hello, we are missionaries Michael and Cara Montalvo, and together with our twin boys, Simon and Jesse, we are going to be headed to be career missionaries in the warm heart of Africa, Malawi.
How many of you can remember the first time you heard God clearly speak? For me, it was in high school. I wasn't saved growing up, and I gave my life to Christ in high school when I attended a life-changing summer camp. One night, a pastor asked us to close our eyes, and he said, "Would you imagine your destiny as a blank chalkboard?" It was in that next moment he asked, would you allow God to write whatever he wanted on that chalkboard? And I saw the word missionary appear. I had never even known what missionaries were because I had just gotten saved. And every Sunday after that I met a missionary at my church, my heart broke for what I knew God was calling me to do. So my church had this program that allowed me to get my feet wet in learning ministry, and that's when I got to meet my wife, Cara.
And I never thought that I would be in missions. I grew up in a Christian home, but started to fall away in high school. In my college years, the Lord began calling me back to Him. And shortly after my grandfather passed away, I was beginning to feel a call on my life to ministry. So I joined that very same internship program Michael was in, and one time during a time of prayer and fasting, which how many of you know, when you fast, God speaks. We were fasting and praying, and I felt the Lord speak to me, Cara, I'm calling you to the nations.
Little did she know at the time, but I had a huge crush on Cara. So I was praying, God, if this crush came from you, call her to missions. And He did.
Which just goes to show that God doesn't just call one of us, but He calls both of us separately, but now together with our boys.
So here we are, a young married couple praying, God, what would you have us do to have one vision for this calling you have for our family? Our church was doing a Speed the Light fundraiser where God was asking us to give sacrificially. And I took a step back and prayed and I said, Lord, what is it you want us to do? And I remember Jesus' words replied, and He said, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. A couple weeks later, as we started giving sacrificially, I felt my heart breaking for the nation of Africa. We were raising money for water well systems in sub-Saharan Africa, and truly my treasure was where my heart was. And I went to my wife and I said, I believe God's calling us to the continent of Africa.
And it was an easy yes for me because a few years earlier I had gone to Africa, a country called Botswana, on a study abroad trip. And I had gotten to work with youth and teens in that nation. And what I noticed was that so many of them knew who Jesus was. They were fully aware of who Jesus was. But there was no one to disciple them and to guide them in the way of salvation. See, many of them didn't have a healthy church within walking distance of where they lived. And so they were not able to be poured into. And that truly broke my heart. But imagine a 17-year-old boy or girl equipped with the gospel message, with the power of the Holy Spirit in them, able to spread the gospel throughout the continent of Africa, even beyond Malawi. We believe that the key to reaching the unreached people groups in Africa is the youth of today. We have a heart for equipping them to become the next generation of pastors.
So that's exactly what God has called us to do in our first term as missionaries in Malawi. We'll be partnering along with the Malawi Assemblies of God, the national church, to train church leaders to reach, engage, and disciple the young people, the young adults and teenagers of Malawi. We believe they are the ones that are going to spark an African missionary movement to the hard places and the unreached in Africa and beyond. And we want to invite you to be a part of the amazing thing that God is doing in this ministry. What a great time that God has called us to do this, because right now the president we serve is the former general superintendent of the Malawi Assemblies of God. How much of a green light and open door could you possibly get for ministry to do whatever it is that God is asking us to do?
Yeah.
We want you to be a part of that. And you can do that by praying, you can do that by giving, and you can do that by going. On your screen, you're going to see a QR code that you can scan that will go to our link tree. You can follow us on social media and our newsletter to get our updates on how you can specifically be praying for us. And we want to challenge you to invest your treasure where your heart is and invest that treasure with us as we do what it is that God has called us to do. Maybe you want to go as well. There is so much room for more workers. We need more workers. Maybe you have a heart to go. We would love to speak with you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being a part of seeing a healthy church within walking distance of every African.
Thank you.